The story I am about to tell you is not just a story, it is a warning. It is the kind of thing that makes you look at the sky and ask God if He is watching a different channel from the rest of us. They say love is blind, but in Lagos, love is not just blind. Sometimes love is mad. You see, if you were in Ikeja on that fateful Saturday, you would have thought the angels themselves were getting married. The sun was shining with that specific aggression that melts makeup and tests deodorants. But inside the Glory Dome Event Center, the air conditioner was humming like a refrigerator in paradise. The venue was packed. Gele head ties rose like mountains in every color: fuchsia pink, onion purple, emerald green. The smell of jollof rice warming in the back mixed with the heavy scent of expensive Arabian oud perfumes. At the altar stood David. Ah, David, look at him. 32 years old, but worry had drawn a map on his forehead. He was wearing a navy blue suit that was slightly too tight around the shoulders, a suit he had bought at Yaba Market 3 years ago, now dry cleaned within an inch of its life. He was sweating, despite the AC. His hands were shaking. He kept tapping his pocket, checking for the rings, checking for reality. And then the doors opened. The organist hit a high note that shook the windows. The congregation stood up, and there she was, Jessica. My people, have you ever seen a woman whose beauty is like a weapon? Jessica did not just walk, she floated. Her gown was a cloud of imported lace studded with Swarovski crystals that caught the light and threw it back into the eyes of the envious. Her makeup was precise, edges laid, contours sharp enough to cut yam. She looked like 5 million naira, which is exactly what she had cost David. She walked down the aisle, her face unreadable. No smile, no tears of joy, just a cold, calculated look, like a woman inspecting a piece of meat in the market. David smiled. His heart was beating big, 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 big. He whispered a prayer of gratitude. Thank you, Lord. Today, shame has ended. Oh, David, innocent, foolish David, if only you knew that shame was just doing warm-up exercises. She reached the altar. The pastor, a man with a shiny forehead and a booming voice, began the rituals. He spoke of faithfulness. He spoke of for richer, for poorer. Then came the question. The big question. Do you, Jessica, take this man, David, to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, until death do us part? The church went silent. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear the buzzing of a fly that had lost its way. David looked at her, eyes shining with love. Jessica looked at David. She looked at his shoes. Polished, yes, but worn at the heel. She looked at his hands, rough from gripping the handlebars of his dispatch bike. She leaned into the microphone. The speakers crackled. Then she laughed. It wasn't a sweet laugh. It was a dry, wicked sound. He, he, he. Pastor! Her voice rang out clear and sharp like breaking glass. God forbid poverty. I cannot suffer. Do I look like someone who was created to push a disabled car? The congregation gasped. Ah, Ewo, Jesus. David blinked. Baby? Jessie, what is? Don't baby me, she snapped, pulling her hand away from his as if he had leprosy. She reached into her bodice and pulled out an iPhone 15 Pro Max. David, look at yourself. Look at your mates. You brought me here to suffer? God forbid bad thing. She turned to the DJ, who was frozen with his mouth open. Cut the music. Then she turned to the back of the church. Honey, I'm ready. At that exact moment, we heard the roar. A matte black Mercedes G-Wagon, the G63 AMG, the type that costs more than a landlord's entire estate, drove right through the open double doors of the church compound, stopping just inches from the entrance. The engine growled like a beast. The driver's door didn't open. The passenger door swung wide. Jessica didn't look back. She didn't look at her mother, who was fanning herself and shouting, Go where the money is.
She didn't look at David, whose knees had just given way. She gathered her 500,000 naira train, walked past the fainting groom, and climbed into the G-Wagon. As the car reversed with a screech of tires that smelt of burnt rubber and arrogance, David collapsed. Darkness took him. But wait, don't change the channel. Because what Jessica didn't know and what David couldn't see as he hit the floor was that the G-Wagon did not belong to the man driving it, and the God of the poor, he was already rolling up his sleeves. Hey, sorry to interrupt your listening for just a moment. If this story is speaking to you so far, I'd be really grateful if you'd subscribe and support the channel. It helps me keep creating more stories like this for you. Thank you. Now, let us turn the clock back. Before the G-Wagon, before the disgrace, let us look at the man, David. David was the kind of man you would pass on the street without looking twice. He was a dispatch rider for a logistics company in Ikeja. Every day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., he was on the road, dodging yellow downfall buses, inhaling exhaust fumes, and praying that a trailer wouldn't turn him into a sticker on the asphalt. But David had a secret. Underneath his faded helmet and his dust-stained polo shirt, David was a genius. He was a self-taught software developer. While other riders spent their break time sleeping on their bikes or arguing about football, David would sit under a mango tree, typing complex code on a cracked Android phone. He was building an app, a logistics algorithm designed to solve the very traffic that was killing him daily. He called it Swift Move. It was brilliant. It was revolutionary. But in Nigeria, brilliance without connection is like a generator without petrol. It makes noise, but it gives no light. He had met Jessica 2 years ago at a bus stop. She was crying because rain had ruined her makeup on the way to an interview. David had given her his raincoat. He rode in the rain, soaked to his boxers, just so she would stay dry. She called him her knight in shining armor. But as time passed and Instagram arrived, the armor began to look rusty to her. Jessica was a makeup artist. She spent her days painting the faces of rich women in Lekki and Banana Island. She saw their marble floors, she saw their husbands' Range Rovers, she smelt the scent of soft life and it intoxicated her. She began to look at David not as a provider, but as a placeholder, a pending status until something better arrived. And something did, or so she thought. His name was Johnson. The rain was hammering on the zinc roof of David's Face Me, I Face You apartment in Ogba. It was a small room divided by a curtain. On one side, a mattress on the floor. On the other, a small kitchen corner with a kerosene stove. The room smelt of damp clothes and kerosene. David sat on the edge of the mattress. His screen glowed in the semi-dark. He was staring at his bank app. Account balance, 15,400 naira. He rubbed his face. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. He had just paid for the wedding hall. He had paid for the decoration. He had paid for the gown. He had taken a loan from a predatory fintech app, the ones that send shameful messages to your contact if you default for 1 day. The door opened. Jessica walked in. She didn't knock. She never knocked anymore. She looked around the room with a sneer, wrinkling her nose as if she smelled something dead. She was holding a takeaway pack from a fast food joint, but she didn't offer any to David.
"Baby, welcome," David said, forcing a smile. He stood up. "I made rice, concussion rice, with crayfish and dry fish, the way you like it." He moved to the stove and dished a plate. The steam rose, smelling of pepper and effort. He placed it on the small plastic table. Jessica looked at the plate. She looked at the orange-colored rice, the small pieces of dry fish. "Rice?" she asked. Her voice was flat. "Yes, baby, it's what we have," David said gently. "You know, after the payment for the hall, things are a bit tight, but once the app picks up..." Jessica hissed.
It was a long serpentine hiss. Up, 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 she shouted, throwing her handbag onto the bed. Will I eat up? Will App take me to Dubai? David, look at your mates. My friend Tolu just got engaged and her ring is worth 2 million. You are feeding me crayfish rice 2 weeks to our wedding? Jessie, please, lower your voice. The neighbors. Let them hear. Are they the ones suffering with you? She walked to the table. With one swift motion of her manicured hand, she swept the plate off the table. The plastic plate bounced. The rice scattered across the rug. The rug David brushed every morning. The crayfish lay there like dead insects. David stood frozen. He looked at the food. His dinner, her dinner, wasted on the floor. His stomach rumbled, a painful reminder that he hadn't eaten since breakfast. Johnson sends me 100,000 naira just for data, Jessica spat, looming over him. She was beautiful, but in the dim light, her face looked twisted. He offered to fly me to Abuja for the weekend, but I said no because of this. She gestured to David, to the room, to the poverty. I am managing you, David. Do not annoy me. Level up or I will level out. She turned, sat on the bed, and unlocked her phone, scrolling through Instagram, ignoring him completely. David didn't shout. He didn't raise his hand. A man who beats a woman has lost the argument, his father used to say. Instead, he knelt on the floor. Quietly, with dignity, he began to pick up the rice, grain by grain, putting it back into the plate to throw in the trash. He wiped the floor with a rag. God, he prayed silently, his heart squeezing in his chest like a wet towel. I am trying. I am really trying. Is my best not good enough? He went to bed hungry that night, listening to Jessica giggle as she texted someone in the dark. But what she didn't know, and what David couldn't see, was that this was only the appetizer. The main course of disgrace was yet to be served. The sun in Victoria Island is different from the sun in the mainland. In the mainland, the sun burns you. In Victoria Island, the sun reflects off glass skyscrapers and blinds you. David's dispatch box was heavy. He had an order for the Golden Truffle, a restaurant where a bottle of water cost more than a full tank of petrol for his bike. He arrived at the gates. The security guards, men in uniforms crisper than David's church clothes, looked him up and down. Delivery, David said, wiping sweat from his brow. He smelled of exhaust fumes and the distinct metallic scent of Lagos stress. Go round the back, the guard backed. The customer said I should bring it to the table. It's urgent, David pleaded. He needed the tip. Even 500 naira would help. He pushed past the reluctance and walked into the restaurant. The air conditioning hit him like a physical blow. It was frigid. The air smelled of steak, expensive wine, and old money. Soft jazz played in the background. David scanned the tables, looking for the customer. Order for Mr. J-Boy, the app said. He saw a hand wave from a corner booth. David walked over, his helmet tucked under his arm. Delivery for Mr. J-Boy, David started. Then he froze. Sitting in the leather booth was a man, a big man. He wore a Gucci shirt that was fighting a losing battle with his stomach. Heavy gold chains rested on his neck. He was chewing a toothpick aggressively. And sitting next to him, laughing with her head thrown back, was Jessica. She was supposed to be at a bridal shower planning meeting. David felt the room spin. Jessie? The music seemed to stop. The diners at the nearby tables turned to look. Jessica froze mid-laugh. Her eyes widened, then narrowed instantly. Panic flickered for a second, replaced immediately by cold defense. Who is Jessie? The big man, Johnson, asked, looking from David to Jessica. He spoke with a fake British accent that kept slipping into distinct Wari pidgin. Babe, do you know this person? Jessica didn't look at David. She picked up her wine glass, staring intently at the red liquid. I have never seen him before in my life, she said. Her voice didn't shake. He must be mistaken. David felt a sharp pain in his chest, sharper than a knife. Jessie, it's me. David, your fiancé. We are getting married in 7 days. Johnson let out a loud, booming laugh. Fiancé? You? He looked David up and down, sneering at his dusty boots, his faded jeans, the helmet that had seen better days. Babe, this dispatch rider says he is marrying you. Wonder shall never end. Security, Jessica called out, her voice rising. Please, "This man is disturbing us. He smells of smoke and he's ruining my appetite." A waiter rushed over. "Sir, you need to leave." "But she is my wife-to-be," David's voice cracked. He looked at her, pleading with his eyes. "Acknowledge me, please. Don't do this." Jessica finally looked at him. Her eyes were dead. "Mr. Man, take your delivery fee and go. Stop embarrassing yourself. Look at you. Look at him," she pointed to Johnson. "Does gold marry rust?" Johnson threw a bundle of naira notes, mint crisp notes at David. They hit David's chest and fluttered to the floor. "Pick it up, boy. Buy yourself some soap," Johnson mocked. The restaurant patrons laughed. A table of expatriates chuckled. A couple in the corner whispered and pointed. David stood there. His dignity was screaming at him to punch Johnson. His heart was screaming at him to grab Jessica. But his reality, the poverty, the weakness, the exhaustion, held him still. He didn't pick up the money. He placed the food package gently on the table. "Enjoy your meal," he whispered. He turned and walked out. The walk to the door felt like 1,000 miles. He could feel their eyes burning holes in his back. He heard Jessica's laughter resume before the door even swung shut. Outside, by his bike, David leaned against the hot metal and dry-heaved. He didn't cry. The tears refused to come. It was too deep for tears. She thought it couldn't get worse. She was wrong, because the devil was not done with him yet. The church hall was echoing with the sound of the choir practicing "Great is thy faithfulness." The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. It was the wedding rehearsal. The bridal train was there, Jessica's friends, all wearing matching t-shirts that said "Bride's Squad." The groomsmen, David's few friends from university, were trying to look cheerful. David was standing at the altar waiting. He had forgiven her for the restaurant. He had convinced himself it was a misunderstanding, that she was under pressure, that love covers a multitude of sins. Oh, David, the patient dog who was about to eat a bone made of stone. Jessica walked in with her mother. Her mother, Mrs. Ibe, was a short, stout woman who loved money more than she loved oxygen. "Stop the music," she shouted. The choir trailed off. The drummer hit the cymbal one last time. Jessica marched up the aisle. She wasn't smiling. She grabbed the microphone from the stand. "Everyone listen to me," she announced. Her voice boomed through the empty church. "I want to make something clear. The reception food, my mother paid for it. The drinks, my uncle paid for it." She turned to David. He was smiling nervously, trying to take her hand. She slapped his hand away. "Don't touch me." "Jessie, what is it again?" David whispered, conscious of the choir members watching. The pastor was in his office, so they were alone with the workers and friends. "Look at your shoes," she said into the microphone. David looked down. He was wearing his best black shoes. But yes, the sole of the left one was coming apart slightly. He had used super glue on it that morning, but the heat had melted the glue. "Lift your leg," she commanded. "Jessie, please." I said lift it. Slowly, painfully, David lifted his left foot. The sole flapped open like a hungry mouth. A hole in his sock was visible. The groomsmen looked away. The bridesmaids giggled behind their hands. "You cannot even afford to cover your own feet, yet you want to cover me?" Jessica asked, circling him like a shark. "I am only marrying you out of pity, David. Everyone here knows it. You are a charity case, a project." Mrs. Ibe shouted from the pew. "Tell him, my daughter, love does not pay bills. If he cannot take care of you, let him go." Jessica stood in front of him. "Kneel down." "What?" "Kneel down and apologize for wasting my youth. Apologize for making me settle for a man who counts meat in the soup pot." David looked at his friends. They looked down. He looked at the choir. They were watching with wide eyes, some recording with their phones. The shame burned in his chest like fire. It rose up his neck. His face felt hot. But David wanted peace. He wanted this wedding. He believed that once they were married, she would change. He believed that a man must stoop to conquer. Slowly, David sank to his knees on the hard marble floor. "I'm sorry, Jessica," he said, his voice cracking. "Louder!" "I am sorry," David shouted, a single tear escaping his eye. "Better," she said. She dropped the mic. It made a loud thud that echoed like a gunshot. "Fix your shoe before Saturday. I don't want you embarrassing me in front of the cameras." She walked out. her mother following her like a triumphant general. David remained on his knees. The silence in the church was deafening. He felt small. He felt like an ant. The shame was so heavy he could barely breathe. But surely this was the bottom. Surely it couldn't get worse than kneeling in the house of God. Ah, my people, you underestimate the wickedness of man. The cell at the Alausa police station smelled of urine, old sweat, and despair. It was a 10 by 10 concrete box holding 20 men. David was sitting in the corner, on the bare, cold floor. His back was against the damp wall. He was hugging his knees. He wasn't supposed to be here. He was supposed to be ironing his suit. He was supposed to be collecting his Bachelor's Eve prayers.
But 3 hours ago, the police had stormed his apartment. They dragged him out in front of his neighbors. They slapped him. They threw him into the van. The charge? Theft. Johnson, the rich man, had claimed that during the delivery at the restaurant, David had stolen a diamond Rolex worth 15 million naira. It was a lie, a blatant satanic lie. But in Lagos, the police do not listen to the poor man. The police listen to the man who drives the G-Wagon. David's phone had been seized, but before they took it, he saw the message from Jessica. Jessica, my love, I heard you are a thief now, stealing from Johnson. You are a disgrace. Don't bother coming to the wedding if you don't have bail money. In fact, don't come at all. You embarrass me. She didn't ask if it was true. She didn't come to the station. She condemned him. David shivered. He had no shirt on. The cell president, a hulking prisoner with a scar across his eye, had taken it. Mosquitoes feasted on David's back. Hunger gnawed at his stomach. This was it, the end of the road. His app, useless code on a confiscated phone. His wedding, a joke. His life, over. He looked around the cell. A young boy no older than 18 was crying in the corner, holding a bleeding nose. The other prisoners were mocking him. David crawled over to the boy. He had nothing. He was nothing. But he reached into his pocket and found a half-eaten packet of biscuits he had saved for dinner. "Take," David whispered, handing it to the boy. "Thank you, bros," the boy sobbed, eating the biscuits greedily. David leaned his head back against the wall. He closed his eyes. Tears leaked out, hot and salty, mixing with the grime on his face. He didn't scream. He didn't curse Jessica. He opened his mouth and a broken, whispery sound came out. "God." The prisoners went quiet. There was something in his voice, a pain so raw it commanded respect. "God, I don't want money anymore. I don't want the wedding. I don't want revenge." He choked on a sob. "I just want to know, where are you? Did you not see me return the wallet I found last month? Did you not see me praying? Why is the wicked prospering? Why is the patient dog eating only bone?" He hit the back of his head against the wall. "If you are real, if you are truly the orphan of the orphan, please, just give me peace. Let me sleep and not wake up. I am tired. I am so, so tired." The prayer hung in the heavy, stagnant air of the cell. Outside, the sun began to set, painting the Lagos sky in blood orange. The darkness was coming. The wedding was tomorrow morning. David was locked in a cage, framed by a rival, abandoned by his love, and forgotten by the world. Or so he thought. She had no idea that the same God she was crying to had already sent someone who would turn her tears into testimony, someone who was closer than she thought. Because in a law firm in Ikoyi, a man named Barrister Femi was looking at a file with David's name on it. And he was very, very angry. My people, they say that when the night is darkest, the dawn is nearest. But inside the cell at Alausa police station, there was no dawn. There was only the smell of regret and the sound of mosquitoes singing their wicked songs.
David had not slept. How could he? Today was Saturday. Today was his wedding day. By now, 7 a.m., his groomsmen should have been banging on his door, shouting Oko Iyawo. By now, he should have been trying to tie his tie with shaking hands. Instead, he was sitting on a concrete floor, shirtless, watching a cockroach crawl across his foot. He was a groom without a bride, a man without a future, a prisoner without a crime. David Okafor. The voice boomed from the cell gate. It was the station sergeant, the one with eyes as red as palm oil. David stood up slowly. His legs were stiff. "Yes, officer." "Come out. You have a visitor." A visitor? David's heart jumped. Jessica? Did she come? Did she realize that love is greater than a Rolex? Did she bring bail money? He followed the sergeant down the corridor, his bare feet slapping against the cold tiles. He wiped his face with his hands, trying to look presentable, trying to look like a man who hadn't just spent the night next to an ochre bucket of urine. They reached the DPO's office, Divisional Police Officer. The sergeant opened the door and shoved David inside. "Sit down." The DPO backed. David sat. He kept his head down. "Good morning, sir." "Look up," a new voice said. It wasn't the DPO. It was a voice that sounded like polished wood, smooth, deep, and expensive. David looked up. Sitting across from him was a man who looked like he owned the air conditioning in the room. He was wearing a dark grey agbada that was starched to perfection. On his wrist sat a Patek Philippe watch that caught the morning light. He wasn't young, maybe 50, but he had the kind of calm eyes that had seen everything and feared nothing. He looked familiar. David squinted. Where have I seen this face? "You don't remember me," the man said, a small, sad smile playing on his lips. "But I remember you." David shook his head. "Sir, I don't." 3 weeks ago, on the 3rd mainland bridge. It was raining. My car had a flat tire. I was stranded. A dispatch rider stopped. He didn't ask for money. He helped me change the tire in the rain. And when I dropped my wallet in the mud, he ran after my car to return it. The memory hit David. The black Lexus Jeep. The black Lexus Jeep, the man confirmed. My wallet had $2,000 in it. You could have taken it. You could have solved all your wedding problems with that money, but you returned it intact. The man leaned forward. The smell of expensive cologne, sandalwood, and success filled the space between them. My name is Barrister Femi. I represent a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. And for the last 3 weeks, I have been doing a background check on the man who was honest when no one was watching. David was trembling. "Sir, I didn't know." Barrister Femi turned to the DPO. His voice changed. It became hard, like cold steel. "DPO, open this cell gate. Release this man immediately. The charges against him are fabricated, and if you keep him here 1 minute longer, I will have your badge for breakfast and your pension for lunch." The DPO, a man who usually roared like a lion, suddenly looked like a wet chicken. Barrister, no problem, sir. It was a mistake. We were just investigating." "Investigate your conscience," Femi snapped. He stood up and looked at David. "Get up, son. We have a wedding to attend." David blinked. Tears filled his eyes again. "Sir, I can't go. I have nothing. Look at me." Femi walked over and placed a hand on David's dirty shoulder. "I know what happened to you. I know about the stolen watch. I know about the insults, and I'm going to help you fix it." How do you know all this?" Femi smiled, a dangerous glint in his eye. "Because the patient's dog eats the fattest bone, David. But sometimes the dog needs a lawyer to crack the bone open." The air outside the police station tasted sweet. David stepped out into the morning sun, shielding his eyes. Parked at the curb was not the Lexus from 3 weeks ago. It was a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a beast of a car. "Get in," Femi said, holding the back door open himself. David hesitated. "Sir, I am dirty. I will stain the leather." "The leather can be cleaned. Your dignity is what we need to restore. Get in." David slid into the car. It was like entering a spaceship. The silence inside was absolute. The chaos of Lagos, the horns, the shouting, the generator noise disappeared. Femi sat beside him. He opened a leather briefcase and pulled out a sleek iPad and a thick document bound in blue paper. "David," Femi began, his tone serious, "do you know why I was on the bridge that day? I was coming from a meeting with my partners. We were looking for a logistics algorithm, something that can predict Lagos traffic patterns using chaotic data." David's breath hitched. "My app? Swift Move?" "We tested your code," Femi said. "It's not just good, it's genius. While you were sleeping in that cell, my partners in California authorized the acquisition." Femi handed him the document. "Read the highlighted line." David's hands shook so hard the paper rattled. He looked at the numbers. He blinked. He wiped his eyes. He looked again. "Acquisition price? $2 million US. $2 million US. Two. David couldn't speak. The air left his lungs. $2 million, Femi said calmly. "That is roughly 3 billion naira at today's rate. The money hits your account on Monday morning."
David dropped the paper. He covered his face with his hands and wept. Not the quiet weeping of the cell, but the loud heaving sobs of a man whose chains had just been broken. "Why?" David cried. "Why me?" "Because you were faithful in the little things," Femi said softly. "But listen to me, David, listen." David looked up, tears streaming down his face. "This money makes you rich," Femi said, his eyes narrowing, "but it doesn't clear your name. Right now, to the world and to that girl Jessica, you are still a thief. You are still a failure." "She hates me," David whispered. "She told me not to come." "I know," Femi said. He tapped the iPad screen. "I know she called you a poverty-stricken fool. I know she threw your food away. I know she's planning to run off with Mr. Johnson today." David froze. "Run off? With Johnson? Oh, you didn't know?" Femi swiped on the iPad. "Watch this." A video played. It was CCTV footage, grainy but clear. It showed Johnson, the big man, sneaking into a key cabinet in a massive house. He looked nervous. He took a key. Then the footage switched to the driveway. Johnson was getting into the matte black G-Wagon. "Who is he?" David asked. "Johnson," Femi said, "is a driver. He drives for Chief Okoya, a billionaire who has been in a coma in London for 6 months. Johnson has been living in the chief's house, wearing his clothes, drinking his wine, and driving his cars. He is broke, David. He owes gambling debts in 3 different states. He is marrying Jessica, or rather, kidnapping her, to use the wedding gift and her small savings to run to Ghana." David stared at the screen. The man who had mocked him, the man who had thrown money at him. A driver, a thief. "Does Jessica know?" David asked. "No," Femi replied. "She thinks she's upgrading. She thinks she's leaving a bicycle for a private jet. She doesn't know she's jumping from the frying pan into the fire." Femi leaned back. "But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" David wiped his face with the back of his hand. He looked at the document worth billions. He looked at the man who had saved him. "Yes, sir. I trust you." Femi smiled. It was a smile that promised judgment. "Good, because we are going to that church and we are going to make them pay, publicly." "Driver, stop at men's wardrobe in Ikeja," Femi commanded. "We have exactly 45 minutes before the service starts," Femi said, checking his Patek Philippe.
We need to get you a suit, not the one you bought in Yaba, a proper suit, armor for the battle. As the car glided through traffic, Femi laid out the plan. It was surgical, it was precise. David, listen carefully. This is the hardest thing I will ask you to do. I'm listening, sir.
You are going to walk into that church. You are going to stand at the altar. You are going to look Jessica in the eye. And you are going to let her dump you. David flinched. What? Sir, why? If we know Johnson is a thief, why don't we arrest him now? Because, Femi said, his voice dropping to a whisper, humiliation must be answered with revelation. If we arrest him now, Jessica will play the victim. She will say she didn't know. She will cry and beg you. And people will say, oh, forgive her, she was deceived. Femi shook his head. No. We need the world to see her heart. We need them to see her choose the fake gold over the real diamond. We need her to reject you when you are poor, so she cannot claim you when you are rich. David swallowed hard. It made sense, but the pain of it. You want me to stand there and let her insult me again? Yes, Femi said. Let her vomit her wickedness. Let everyone record it. Let the world see exactly who she is. And just when she thinks she has won, just when she steps into that stolen car, that is when we close the trap. Femi tapped his phone. I have the police area commander on speed dial. I have the owner of the G-Wagon, Chief Okoya's son, flying in from Abuja. They are waiting for my signal. He looked at David. Can you be the patient dog for 1 more hour? David looked out the window. He saw a dispatch rider weaving through traffic, sweating in the sun. He remembered the insults, the cold rice, the jail cell. He clenched his fist. Yes, I can wait. Good. The car stopped. Femi handed David a black credit card. Go inside. Get a navy blue bespoke suit, white shirt, no tie, clean shave, be fast. Meanwhile, at the Glory Dome Event Center, the atmosphere was electric. Jessica was in the bridal suite, surrounded by her squad. She was glowing, not with love, but with the adrenaline of a scam artist about to pull off the heist of the century. Her phone pinged. It was a text from Johnson. Johnson, my king. Baby, the G-Wagon is warmed up. As soon as you say, I don't, run out, don't look back. We are heading straight to the airport. Paris awaits. Jessica giggled. Paris! Finally! She would eat croissants. She would take pictures by the Eiffel Tower. She would block David on every platform. Babe, you look expensive. Tolu, her chief bridesmaid, screamed. I am expensive, Jessica corrected, adjusting her tiara. Has that pauper David arrived? Not yet, Tolu said, checking her phone. Maybe he is still in jail. I heard he couldn't make bail. Good, Jessica sneered. If he doesn't come, I will just announce that he ran away because he couldn't afford to feed me. Either way, I win. She sent a broadcast message to her contacts, hundreds of people. On my way to the altar. Today, God shames my enemies. Watch my live stream. Hashtag Jessica Royal Wedding. Hashtag Soft Life. She had no idea. She had absolutely no idea that the enemy she was shaming was currently sitting in a Rolls Royce, adjusting the cuffs of a Tom Ford suit that cost more than her entire bridal train. Back in the Rolls Royce, David looked at himself in the rearview mirror. The man staring back was different. The suit fit like a second skin. The shave was clean, but it was the eyes that had changed. The fear was gone, replaced by a cold, quiet resolve. You look like a billionaire, Femi said, nodding in approval. I don't feel like one, David admitted. My stomach is turning. That is hunger, Femi said, handing him a protein bar. Eat, you need strength for the drama. David took a bite. It tasted like sawdust, but he swallowed it. Femi's phone rang. He answered on speaker. Area Commander, are you in position? We're at the gate, barrister. The the voice crackled. "We have the tow truck. We have the men. We are waiting for your signal." "Hold position. Wait until the girl gets in the car. I want the engine running before you block them." "Copy that." Femi hung up. He turned to David. "We are here." The car pulled up a street away from the church. Femi put a hand on David's arm. "I will come in through the back. I will sit in the last pew. When the moment comes, I will stand up. That is your signal that the police are moving." "And until then?" "Until then," Femi said, his voice low and intense, "you play the fool. You beg her. You plead. Make it real, David. Give her every opportunity to do the right thing. Let her seal her own fate." David nodded. He opened the door. The sound of the church worship session drifted out. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper. The irony was not lost on him. David stepped out of the car. He straightened his jacket. He walked toward the church gate, not as a victim, but as the bait in a trap set by God himself. Inside the church, Jessica was walking toward the door, checking her makeup one last time. She checked her smile. It was perfect. It was fake. She thought she was walking into her coronation. She didn't know she was walking into her funeral. The trap was set, the audience was ready, and justice was about to be served publicly. My people, there is a kind of silence that is louder than a generator. That was the silence inside the Glory Dome as the clock struck 10 a.m. The air conditioners were humming, but the tension in the room was sweating. The church was packed. The witnesses of shame had arrived. On the left side sat David's few people. Mama Nkechi, the roasted corn seller, wearing her best Ankara, squeezing a handkerchief. A few dispatch riders from David's office looking uncomfortable in ill-fitting shirts. On the right side sat Jessica's squad. Her mother, Mrs. Ibe, wearing a gele so high it was blocking the view of 3 people behind her. Her friends tapping away on their phones ready to broadcast the upgrade. And there, at the altar, stood David. He stood still. His new Tom Ford suit absorbed the light, making him look like a dark shadow against the white altar. He wasn't shaking anymore. His hands were clasped behind his back. He looked like a statue carved out of patience. Barrister Femi sat in the very last pew, practically invisible in the shadows. He had a newspaper in his hand, but his eyes were sharp, watching the doors like a hawk. Then the organ blasted. "Here comes the bride." Jessica entered. Ah, look at her. She walked with the confidence of a woman who believes she has cheated gravity. She smiled at the cameras. She waved to her haters. She looked at David at the altar and sneered. In her mind, she was already in Paris, eating croissants and speaking French. She did not know that her visa to disgrace had already been stamped. She reached the altar. The pastor, unaware of the drama about to unfold, smiled. "We are gathered here today." David looked at her. He saw the greed in her eyes. He saw the contempt. And for the first time, he felt nothing. No love, no pain, just pity. Internal thoughts. "Do it, Jessica. Free me." The moment arrived. The devil cleared his throat. The pastor asked the question, "Do you, Jessica?" She didn't let him finish. She laughed, that dry, wicked laugh we heard about in the beginning. He, he, he. She grabbed the mic. The church froze. Mrs. Ibe adjusted her wrapper, grinning. "Here it comes." "Pastor," Jessica announced, her voice echoing off the walls. "God forbid poverty. I cannot suffer." The crowd gasped. "Ah, is she mad?" Jessica turned to David, poking a manicured finger at his chest. "David, look at you. You think because you rented a nice suit today, you are somebody? You are a dispatch rider, a common delivery boy. I deserve the soft life, not the suffering life." She turned to the congregation.
My people, why should I eat stones when there is bread? Why should I trek when there is a G-Wagon waiting? She pointed to the open doors, and right on cue, the matte black G-Wagon roared into the compound, engine revving like a dragon. Johnson was behind the wheel, wearing dark shades, looking like the CEO of Bad Belly International. My ride is here, Jessica shouted. She dropped the microphone. She picked up her dress. She turned her back on David. She walked down the aisle, hips swaying, head high. Bye-bye to poverty, she screamed as she neared the exit. The church was in chaos. People were standing up. Phones were flashing. Mama Nkechi was crying, "My son, oh my son." Jessica reached the door. Johnson unlocked the passenger door. She put one foot inside the car. She thought she had won. She thought the movie was over. But Barrister Femi folded his newspaper. He stood up. He didn't shout. He simply raised one hand. Sirens wailed from every corner of the compound. Wee-oo, 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 wee-oo. 3 police vans screeched into the compound, blocking the gates. A massive tow truck backed up behind the G-Wagon, trapping it. Jessica froze, one foot in the car, one foot on the ground. Johnson slammed the brakes. The trap had snapped shut. "Nobody move!" The voice belonged to the area commander. He marched into the church compound with 10 officers, all armed. Jessica pulled her foot out of the car. "What is happening? Johnson, tell them who you are." Johnson was sweating. He was frantically trying to lock the doors, but the police were faster. They smashed the window. Crash! They dragged him out of the G-Wagon like a sack of stubborn yams. "It's a mistake! It's a mistake!" Johnson was screaming, his fake British accent gone, replaced by pure Wari panic. "I was just borrowing it to wash it." Barrister Femi walked to the center of the chaos. He held up his iPad. He connected it to the church's large projector screen, the one used for hymns. "Church media, input 2, now." The screens flickered. The video, the CCTV footage played for everyone to see. Scene 1, Johnson sneaking into a master bedroom. Scene 2, Johnson stealing the keys. Scene 3, Johnson counting dirty naira notes in a corner, talking on the phone. "Bros, as soon as the wedding is over, I will sell the girls' jewelry. We can use the money to cross the border." The church went dead silent. "Sell my jewelry?" Jessica whispered. Her hands flew to her neck. Femi stepped forward, microphone in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice was cool like ice water. "The man you see on the floor is not a billionaire. His name is Sunday. He is a driver. He stole this vehicle from his boss, Chief Okoya, who is currently in a coma in London." Femi turned to Jessica. She was shaking. Her makeup was starting to crack. "And you, Jessica," Femi continued, "you wanted the soft life. You wanted a G-Wagon. Well, here is the owner." A young man in a polo shirt stepped out of the police van. It was Chief Okoya's son. He walked up to the G-Wagon, inspected the scratch on the rim, and then looked at Johnson with disgust. "Sunday, you are finished. 10 years, minimum." The crowd erupted. "Driver? He wanted to sell her jewelry? God of Elijah!" Jessica looked at Johnson, who was now crying on the floor, begging the police not to rough-handle his Gucci shirt, which was also fake. She looked at the G-Wagon, the symbol of her upgrade, being hooked up to the tow truck. She looked at the crowd, laughing, pointing, recording. She realized she was naked. Not physically, but socially. She was the woman who left a husband for a driver, the gold digger who dug into a septic tank. Then, panic set in. She needed a lifeboat. She turned her head. She saw David. David was still standing at the altar. He hadn't moved. He hadn't laughed. Jessica ran. She ran back up the aisle, her expensive dress dragging in the dust of the floor. She ran past her mother, who was currently fainting, into the arms of a terrified usher. She threw herself at David's feet. She grabbed his Tom Ford trousers. "David, baby, it was a test." The crowd screamed. Liar. I swear, David, Jessica cried, tears streaming down her face, mixing with mascara to create black rivers of shame. She looked up at him, eyes wide and desperate. Please, baby, let's continue the wedding. I choose you. I choose love. David looked down at her.
The church waited. Would he be the fool? Would love make him blind again? Barrister Femi stepped up to the altar. He whispered something to the DJ. A notification sound echoed through the speakers. A giant image appeared on the projector screen behind David. It was a bank alert. Credit alert. Amount: 3,200,000,000 naira. Sender: Silicon Valley Ventures. Desk: acquisition of Swift Move app. The gasp that went through the church sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Billion? 3 billion? Is that 9 zeros? Jessica stared at the screen. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked at the number. She looked at David. She looked at the number again. David, she choked out. You have... I have money, David said softly. His voice was amplified by the microphone, calm and steady. I have the soft life you wanted. Jessica scrambled up, trying to hug him. Oh, my king, I knew it. I knew you were a star. That's why I pushed you. I pushed you to greatness. Let's go home, baby. Let's go and celebrate. She reached for his face. David caught her hand. He held it for a second. The crowd held its breath. Then, he gently removed her hand from his suit. He unbuttoned his jacket, the Tom Ford jacket. He took it off. He walked past Jessica as if she was a piece of furniture. He walked down the steps of the altar to where Mama Nkechi was standing. The poor corn seller was trembling. David draped the expensive jacket over Mama Nkechi's shoulders. Mama, David said, loud enough for everyone to hear. When I had nothing, you gave me corn. When I was hungry, you didn't ask for payment. You are the only mother I see here today. Mama Nkechi collapsed in tears of joy. David turned back to Jessica one last time. I failed your test, Jessica. But you failed your future. David, no, please, Jessica screamed, falling to her knees again. Don't leave me with shame. Don't leave me. David turned to Barrister Femi. Shall we go, sir? I believe we have a business lunch to plan. After you, Mr. CEO, Femi said, bowing slightly. David walked down the aisle. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. People who had mocked him 10 minutes ago were now bowing. Chairman! Boss! Twale Baba! He didn't look left. He didn't look right. He walked straight out of the church doors, into the bright Lagos sunlight, and into the waiting Rolls Royce. Behind him, the chaos was beautiful. The police were dragging a screaming Johnson into the van. Mrs. Ibe had woken up from her faint and was trying to explain to anyone who would listen. I told her to stick with David. I told her. And Jessica? She was left sitting on the muddy floor of the church entrance. Her white dress was stained. Her makeup was ruined. She watched the Rolls Royce pull away, the spirit of expediency on the bonnet shining in the sun. She watched her soft life drive away with the man she had called a pauper. She reached for her phone to call a boat ride. Notification: insufficient data. Notification: battery low, 1%. The phone died. It started to rain. And so, my people, the story ends. They said the Tishan dog eats the fattest bone. But on that day in Ikeja,
The patient dog did not just eat the bone. He bought the whole cow, bought the abattoir, and left the wicked to eat sand. As for Jessica, well, if you see a woman at the bus stop in Ikeja, crying while looking at a cracked iPhone, greet her for me. Tell her that all that glitters is not gold. And sometimes, the best dispatch rider is the one carrying your destiny. So, my people, what have we learned today? Break the kola nut. Let us share the wisdom. Lesson number 1. The patient dog. David did not fight. He did not insult. He did not drag Jessica on social media. He waited. He walked. He endured. In a generation that rushes everything, be the person who waits. Your blessing is not a microwave meal. It is a slow-cooked soup. It takes time, but the taste is sweet. Lesson number 2. All that glitters. Jessica saw a G-Wagon and thought it was success. She saw a dispatch bike and thought it was failure. But the G-Wagon was stolen, and the bike was carrying a billionaire. Stop judging people by their today. You do not know their tomorrow. The person you are looking down on today might be the person you need to look up to tomorrow. Lesson number 3. Vindication is better than revenge. David could have arrested Jessica. He could have slapped her, but he didn't. He let her actions reveal her character. When you are falsely accused, when you are cheated, hold your peace. Let God set the table of vindication before your enemies. The shame of the wicked is louder than any shout you can make. Lesson number 4. Character is the currency. Barrister Femi did not help David because David was smart. He helped David because David was honest. David returned a wallet when no one was watching. In this Lagos, integrity is rare. If you have it, keep it. It will open doors that education and connection cannot open. Now, I turn to you. Are you a David? Are you working hard, sweating, doing the right thing, but it feels like nobody sees you? Are people mocking your hustle? Are they asking, where is your God? Or are you a Jessica? Are you chasing the flash? Are you valuing things over people? Are you treating good people like trash because they don't look like money? Let me hear from you in the comments. Have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever had a Jessica in your life who left you only for you to blow up later? Tell me your story. I read every single comment. Share this story. Send it to your brother who is about to give up. Send it to your sister who is looking for a rich husband instead of a good man. Put it on your WhatsApp status. Let us spread the gospel of patience and integrity. If this story touched your spirit, join our community. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell. We tell the stories that matter, the stories of our people, the stories of truth. And finally, a prayer for you. May you never miss your diamond because you are busy chasing glitter. May the helpers who are meant to lift you locate you whether you are in a palace or under a bridge. May your enemies live long enough to see you succeed, and may they lack the data to comment on your testimony. Thank you for listening. God bless you. And remember, the downfall of a man is not the end of his life.